My entitled aunt convinced my sister to
buy her house for $1 million with
assurance that not much renovation was needed. It was all a lie, and the renovation cost about $300,000 after my sister and her husband finished this massive renovation. My entitled aunt came back and wanted to
buy the entire house back for
$300,000, which is $1 million less than they put into this house to begin with. When you combine the renovation cost with the $1 million that they put in to buy it, so she sold it for a lot. It got renovated up to perfection, and then she
wanted to buy it back for way less than
she sold it for. Here's how it went down.
Make sure to subscribe to Me the Jerk on
YouTube and hit the bell to turn on
notifications. First, let me describe what
kind of aunt we have. This aunt, or entitled
aunt I should say, of ours has been the source of headache for us as a family.
Emotionally and monetarily, she would
always ask my mom and dad for a loan
that would take years for her to pay.
Where these loans would go is one of our
biggest questions to date, and
whenever my mom or eldest sister would
ask her for the payment, she would always play the I'm family card and be all emotional in order to play my mom's emotions. My mom has a soft spot with her family, and she would most likely let it
slide, but not my eldest sister. She would constantly remind and warn my aunts to pay her debts or she'll do something about it. My aunt would then turn to my mom asking for protection from my sister, to which my mom would talk to my sister about it. My sister, though, is not having
it and is just relentless on her pursuit of making my aunt pay her debts.
This got to the point where my aunt was warned that she would sue my sister if she doesn't stop, to which my sister
openly invited. My sister works at a law firm, so she knows the law, and that our aunt has no case at all. Ultimately, our aunt paid, but not without any parting words or a bunch of, quote, rude people,
and that she would, quote, never talk to
us again and such. But after a month or
so she made up with my mom, and everything was well except for my eldest sister. So for context, my aunt put her
house up for sale due to her children
moving out. She had 2 daughters who are
all married now. Initially, she said that
the house was getting too big for me to
keep/maintain, and that she'd planned on buying a nice condominium near the downtown area. Her house is a
45-minute drive from downtown. My uncle
didn't want her to sell it to someone they do not know, or at least does not have an affinity to, so she suggested to
sell the house to a relative or a super
close friend. My aunt then talked to my
youngest sister. I have 3 sisters, and I am the only guy, and pitched her the idea of buying the house from her. At first, my sister didn't really want to entertain the idea of buying a house at this point in time, as they have 2 kids
that they are sending to a noto cheap school. But my aunt then pulled the sentimental value card, and that it would be a shame if the house was sold to someone else. Admittedly, though, the house did have sentimental value for us siblings and cousins. We used to spend our summers over there, as it's in a
pretty nice neighborhood, and we have
friends there as well. A basketball court is fronting the house, which is a win-win situation since they both have boys, and
her husband is a good basketball player.
My aunt saw this as an opportunity for the boys and her husband to train, or
whatever. To my aunt's credit, she did
have a nice pitch to my sister, so I got to give her that. My sister and her husband discussed this at length. It literally took about a month before they had their decision. My sister and her husband decided to buy the house, as they have long planned to have a house of their own, but her husband's grandmother begged them to stay at the current house they're living in until his grandmother
can return back, as she was sorting something out from a different city. So
they decided to have it leased until they were ready to move. My eldest sister, who, by the way, was against all of this, helped with all their contract and legal stuff so that they can cover all of
their bases. The details of the sale
aren't really familiar to me, but if memory serves me right, the house and the lot was sold for more or less 1 million
pesos. My sister gave my aunt a more than generous amount of time to move out. 6
months when the time came. That
Everything was moved up my sister and her husband decided to pay a visit to.
They recently bought house and see to
what extent the renovation would be, and
to their surprise the condition of the house was horrible. The walls and ceiling were falling apart. The tiles on the floor were chipped or starting to get
chipped. The main bedroom was a mess, and the kitchen smelled like someone
died in there and was left for weeks. Although my aunt did disclose that, quote,
some renovation work would be needed, she
never disclosed the house was this
messed up, but whatever they decided to
have the house renovated, and it cost them another 300,000 once the renovation was done. The difference was night and day, as they were not moving into the new
house yet. They listed the house for
lease on some places, and it garnered a
lot of interest. The house was then leased to a foreign couple. The
transaction went smoothly with the help of my eldest sister once again, and the couple even paid full price for the whole duration of the lease. Everything was as smooth as butter until yesterday. My sister got a call from the couple who leased the house early in the morning when she was dropping off the kids to school. This was on a Monday, and my sister is usually super busy on these days, and this was one of those days. She
answered the call, and the following conversation ensued. This is all from my
sister's retelling of the events as they led
conversation. So here it is. The guy who
called my sister was the nice husband who had the nice wife, or referred to them
as that, and so my sister answered the
phone and said, hello, nice husband.
Haven't heard from you in a long time.
May I know why you called nice husband? Says there's someone at the gate
claiming this is our house. My sister
confused says, she might just be a
crazy person roaming around this area.
Nice husband said, well, no, she showed me
pictures of the house and her in it. At
this point my sister kind of knew what was happening, so she hurriedly drove down there. She was coming from a different side of town, so it took her
about an hour to get there. When she got there, she saw my entitled aunts outside, screaming to let her in. The neighbors
were already out and witnessing the commotion. My entitled aunt sees my sister and hurriedly runs over to her.
Sister, they won't let me in. She points
towards a nice couple. Entitled aunt, what
are you doing here? Well, this was my
house once. Am I not allowed to enter?
What do you mean? I sold you this house.
Do you remember? And now someone else is living here. Well, they're leasing the
house. What? Why would you lease the house
to someone I don't know? My sister started getting angry and said, because
this is my house, I can lease it to whoever I want. At this point my sister
couldn't believe the stupidity of the
situation. It was getting kind of embarrassed with the neighbors looking
on, so she told my entitled aunt to go inside so they could discuss this once
they were in the house. My sister introduced my entitled aunt to the
couple who leased the property, and the following conversation ensued. So how
much do you lease the house for? The nice
husband said, excuse me. I said, how much do you pay for the lease? The nice wife
said, I'm sorry, but we don't see the need
to discuss that to you. Why not? She turns
to my sister and asks, how much are they
paying for the lease? My sister says, it's none of your business. This is my property, and I'm already generous enough
to have let you in what I sold you this
beautiful house, and you treat me this
way. She looks at the couple again. Was
the house sold to you? Don't tell me. The
nice husband laughs and says, look, lady,
even if we did buy it, we don't need to tell you the specifics, since we're not dealing with you, and now we didn't buy this house. That's nasty. You're a liar. She faces my sister and says, I'll take my house back now. Excuse me, are you out of your mind? My sister said, but my entitled Nan replied, no, I'm not, and it's clear to me you're an irresponsible
homeowner. She took something out of her back. Here, take this 300,000 pesos and
give me back my house. 300,000 pesos.
Seriously? She slammed the money into my
entitled aunt's chest. My sister is fuming. At this point, you need to leave my property right now. I won't allow you to disrespect me in front of these nice people. 300,000 when we bought this house from you for 1 million. You can't kick me out of my house. This is my house. My sister grabs her phone and said, I'm calling the cops now. My entitled aunt
Bolted out of there on her way out, she screamed, "I'll come back with you and
take this house, this is not the end of."
This after my entitled aunt was nowhere
to be seen. My sister broke down crying. In front of the nice couple, the couple asked her a few of the details about my
entitled aunt, and they were super understanding. My sister offered to
return about a fourth of the total money they paid for their lease, but the couple said that it's not necessary. My aunt's husband knew what happened, and he was furious to a point that he almost went down to the condominium where my
entitled aunt was living, but my sister
was able to calm her husband down before
anything bad happened. As of now, my sister and her husband are seeking legal
advice from my eldest sister and her firm. Here's the update from the future.
If you want to see how this all played out. Hey guys, really sorry to update this super late. Why, well, on the day that I
was going to post an update, I had severe food poisoning and had to stay in the hospital for a week. I was discharged last Friday, so I'm posting this now. Some of you are asking why my sister and her husband didn't check the house before actually purchasing it. Well, they actually did, but my aunt apparently had amazing skills in hiding the flaws of the house that they didn't see it before. It was too late, admittedly, though the check wasn't really thorough since they are a very busy couple managing multiple businesses. Slaw and stuff add to the fact that they basically pick up and drop off their kids to and from school all the time. They're already cramping a lot of things in their otherwise busy everyday schedule. A day after the
incident, the nice couple who leased the
house met with my eldest sister. In it, they discussed what their options
are in case our crazy aunt pulls that
stunt again, but they didn't want to file a restraining order at the time. My
sister suggested if ever our aunt strikes again that they call the police, and my
eldest sister, also informed my
younger sister to prepare any legal documents showing that the property was hers. As this was happening, my uncle, who
talked to my aunt the day the incident
happened, spoke to my mom and told her everything our crazy aunt did before and
after the house was sold and what happened a day before. The story gets
pretty crazy here, so I'll provide some bullet point summaries on the most important information of the whole conversation. First off, I was wrong in
the assumption that my aunt bought a
condominium. Instead, she bought a new
house with a popular house and lot developer here, Camilla Homes. Before the house was even sold, my entitled aunt was
able to somehow convince her eldest
daughter into buying a new house with her, and that they'd split the cost once the house was sold. After the house was
sold to my sister, my crazy aunt spent
almost half of it buying new furniture.
SL appliance. Is the crazy part about this is that most of the furniture appliances in their old house was still very usable or even in crisp condition. That
my uncle was boggled as to why she would buy new ones. Her reason was new house, new things. Talk about practicality. Where did the other half of the money go? Well, she went on and treated her friends to fancy restaurants and clubs. Here's the kicker: she paid diddly squat on the new
house that she's living in now. There was
still some money left over after all of that spending, and when it came time that she would pay for her part of the house, she casually told her daughter that it has been spent with new stuff for the house, and when asked where the not so old stuff was, she just said, well, I give it all away to my friends when pressed if it was given or sold. She said, I gave
him away. I can't sell stuff to my old
friends. Old stuff. Now obviously her daughter got upset with all of this and threatened to no longer pay unless she pays her part. My entitled aunt then played the "you ungrateful be" card to her
daughter and surprisingly turned the
tables around. I really don't know how she did it, but she did it. As mentioned earlier, there was some money left over,
but it wasn't much, and my entitled aunt heard of this investment scheme that is,
quite honestly, too good to be true. This
investment scheme promised a 30% return on your initial investment per month. I
don't really know much about it, but there's some articles about this great scam, and I highly recommend reading about it. As a side note, that article is titled "Explainer How the Kappa Ministry
took advantage of its investors though.
Kappa Ministry merges religion and social media to orchestrate one of the biggest investment scams in Philippine history. As it turns out, the remaining money, over 50,000 pesos, was invested in this scam, and when the news broke that this scam was being stopped by the government, my uncle claimed that my entitled aunt went crazy and started having temper tantrums out of nowhere.
Even her friends became victims of this
Sudden outburst she was having, that she was somehow banned indefinitely on her Samba group. The 300,000 pesos that she had on hand was not from the investment
scam that she put herself into, but from
her daughter for advance payment of the
house. My uncle said that when she got a
hold of the money, she quickly went through the old house she sold, and the
rest is history. As of this time, the new
house was apparently sold/assumed to one of her friends, and my
entitled aunt moved to Japan to her
daughters. I just hope my cousin will be
able to keep her sanity after all of this and the struggle brought down upon
her by her MIM. So what would you do after seeing the update to this whole
situation? It seems like the entitled and had some sort of gambling problem or
something. She kept trying to spend her money in a crafty way and then take it and do something else with it, and then
not honor other agreements. I mean, she made the first agreement to sell the
house and then wanted to buy it back, but
only with the money that she had in the first part of the story before the
update. We didn't know that that money was in advance from the sister to buy the new place. We thought it was from the
original sale of the house to begin with.
So not only did she spend all the money, she was in a negative situation because that wasn't even her money that she was trying to buy the house back within the
first place at all. That was supposed to
be towards the new place that she was going to go half in half with that whole
investment scam that they brought up in the update. Seems like it was a really
big deal in the Philippines, and I'm
guessing a lot of people got burned
because of it. She probably thought that
she was really clever and was going to
make a bunch of money off of it, but
anything that promises you to make 30%
of your principal investment per month,
you should probably be wary of. Most
legitimate investments won't make
straight up guarantees for something like that, where you're just making 30% right
out the gate every single month of your principal. That doesn't even make any
sense. It sounds like this is probably
going to be a permanent FI in the family, but from the perspective of the
op and everyone involved, they probably want it to be that way. It sounds like
they don't want any more interactions in
the future with this entitled aunt, especially now that she's moved away to
Japan. But if you were in this situation, would you have handled like the op, or
would you have done something different? Let me know down below, and make sure to
subscribe with notifications turned on. Check out the playlists at the top of
the description to hear the next story. And if you're a streamer, use the
copyright-free music link down below on
your next streams. But either way, thanks
a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you
next time.